learn an awful lot of things that can go wrong. We share them, but people don't seem to pick them up. We're not sharing them in the right places. We're not talking to each other enough. So people keep making the same mistakes. I have the privilege of going to a lot of different countries, talking to ministers of education, talking to people who are involved in teacher training, and you hear the same stories coming up time and time again. And it's the same experience we've had in the US, in the UK, in Australia, in Malaysia, in Singapore, as well as in Africa and the Middle East. So it really is important that we listen to each other's failings as well as our successes so we can learn from them. So I think this session today will be a good way into that. We have 6 speakers. In your packs you will see that Alphonse is meant to be speaking from Rwanda. Unfortunately he wasn't able to get in here, but we have Edmund instead. But otherwise the speakers are set up as they are, and they'll be in the order that they are in the programme. So I'm going to hand over to Paolo, who is going to talk about a project in Burundi. So thank you, Paolo.
Thank you, Michelle. Please. Hamjambo nyinyi. Sawa. Can you move? Thank you. So, WITAR presents the Burundi Project, Sawing the Digital Divide by Empowering Teachers. That's cool, isn't it? So, what is it all about? You know what? Monday night I couldn't sleep. I had prepared this presentation months ago, and I was so eager to come here and tell you about a wonderful success story with a flashy PowerPoint and all. But no, I changed my mind. I'll take you to the messy back office of it, not the showcase. I decide we'll enter the dirty kitchen, not the restaurant. Because I think that it's there that real interesting stuff is going on. It's there that we learn most, by our mistakes. And since we're here, we're all practitioners, we all know that. I think that was the best and most interesting way to go. So, yeah, I'll talk a little about the few things that did work in my project, but I really want to focus on our failures. And trying to understand with you why a project 2 years after it started, a project with such a cool name, it's still a wannabe e-learning project to some extent. And to do that, I'll use one of my favorite tools to analyze social settings, what I call Gregory Bateson's magnifier. Gregory Bateson said that in any given social setting, you have a hierarchy that is hard to escape. And that is that context drives relationships, and relationships drive content. In other words, what you say, what we say, depends on whom we are talking with, and whom we are talking with depends on what game we are in. And it's really easy to overlook that. So what's the context then of our project? Well, on one side, we have the Istituto Tecnico Alessandro Rossi. It is the most ancient Italian technical high school, founded back in 1878 by this guy, Alessandro Rossi, who was a very illuminated textile entrepreneur. So in this 130 years almost, trained 5 generations of technicians who heavily contributed to really the development of the Veneto region. The Veneto region, where Venice is, was a very poor region at the beginning of last century. People were starving even after World War II, and creating this class of technicians was really a key point. for the development of this region, which is now one of the most richest region in Europe. So, since the beginning of this school, there was an alumni association. It's now still alive, counting 200 members. Some of them decided to found another organization, the WITAR, an association, a non-profit association, World Istituto Tecnico di San Rossi, as you can see, very local name, and whose mission is to promote the technical, craft, entrepreneur culture into the developing countries. The bet is, well, it worked 50 years ago in northern Italy. We were starting, well, let's try it out, whether it could work also in other contexts. It's a bet, of course. So, WITAR is serving as the bridge between Vicenza, in northern Italy, where the Istituto Tecnico is, and the Lycée Technique Alessandro Rossi in Ngozi, northern Burundi. And how can we do that? Well, infrastructure is provided by Eutelsat, who donated a VSAT and a connection, a broadband connection. And here you are. And recently, they upgraded that to 512 kilobit up and down dedicated, which is a great thing. But it's just recently that we have that. So, how does the other side look like? Well, here it's a short video of our school in Burundi. It's a public school. It's not ours in the sense of private. It has 400 pupils, but we are focusing on the last three specializations: electronics, electromechanics, and computer maintenance. It's about 150 guys. You can see we started by refurbishing the buildings and then equipping them with all this equipment. So since 2003, WITAR raised and invested 400,000 euros in this school. Well, you know, for some of you that are working nationwide project, it's a ridiculous amount of money, but we are talking of an association counting less than 10 active members, mostly retired, 60 years old on average, that are now out of the job, but still very young in their heads and well connected. And so, with goodwill and good contacts, you can go really further away. So, is the context I was talking about clear now? No, it isn't. Because we have to look at the funding thing, at the cultural context as well. We have the Italian culture on one side and the Burundian culture on the other side. They are fairly different. But what's really different is that into the Italian culture, we have the business culture, so my boss's culture coming from the industry, and then the school culture of the school we're working in. And probably, I'm sure, the school culture in Italy is closer to the school culture in Burundi than it is to the business culture in Italy. So the clashes sometimes in my project were more between me and my boss than me and the profession. Where the internet culture, we can use this term, comes into this. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Is there a business culture also in Burundi? Sadly, I must say, from my experience, almost none. There's a saying, it's in Burundi, it says the 3D of Burundi is doucement, demain, donne-moi l'argent. So slowly, tomorrow, and give me the money. And it's really sad to say, but if you go to Bujumbura, as soon as you step out of your car, there's a kid coming and ask you for money. So dependency is really very much into this culture. And I happened to hear once in the ceremony where we first inaugurated the labs, there was the head of the parents committee speaking up and saying, you know, we think that in Burundi, no one is more ungrateful to that the person who's thinking they can go without his benefactor. So you see that when I first heard that, I wanted to wake up and walk away, stand up and walk away, because it's really the opposite of what we are trying to promote. So where the internet comes into all that? internet is here if you want, because it's certainly more common here in Italian culture. It is not that common in the Italian school system, and it's almost, it's novelty. I mean, they didn't have internet until 2 years ago in Burundi, and where there's e-learning culture coming up. Well, I'd say that in e-learning you have what I call the instructional paradigm, that is sort of monkeying, if you want, the guru to pupils, the sage on the stage, okay, and the guide on the side, where is it? The beloved constructionist approach is 6 feet under, not existent, and it's really, for me, it was really impossible to use this approach. Coming to relationships, who are Italians? Italians are the rich Bazungu, right? Muzungu is not just white. Muzungu, there's a whole lot behind that word. If you stay in Africa for a while, people living in Africa, they know what a Muzungu is. And who are Burundians for Italians, or the poor Africans? I mean, I cannot expand on that, but there's so much to say about this, and how we think of hierarchy, how we think of status. And when you design a e-learning project, this thing is really, really powerful to screw up everything up. Let's go to content, what we actually did, because this is probably what you're interested in. Well, we had one basic goal in our e-learning project, so educational support. And 3 drives: web searching training, distance learning, e-collaboration, through the internet, of course. How did it go? Well, we did some web searching training for teachers, after having done some basic computer literacy Word and Excel for them. We realized that it was not necessary for students that much, because peer-to-peer learning, it's enough for them. They exchange enough to know how to use the internet. But then after they learned, why did they learn Excel and Word? Why did they come to learn how to use the internet to improve their classroom skills? Well, they learned Excel because they had more chance to get off the school. Because they are paid $40 a month. It makes 2 beers a day. So, scientifically we could call it a shitty job. And as soon as you have a chance to go off, you go. So, what the heck do I care about ICT and e-learning if I don't have the money to buy medicine for my kids? Okay, then what's the solution? The shortcut. We give them a daily pay so that they come to our trainings, right? Is that what the UN agency and most of the NGOs do? Well, we don't want to do that way, because I think there's no point in technically training someone and while you are diseducating him culturally to dependence. So what we try to do, I forgot something. We wanted to use the internet to prepare the lectures, to use it during the lectures, and for in-house publishing. I will tell you about that now. So what is our ICT empowerment idea? It's just, you have to identify the pioneers that are inherently motivated and like that, and then support them to become opinion leaders. And the other way around, you find the opinion leaders and you try to get to the computers and become pioneers. It takes much longer, but we think is the way to go, the sound way to go. So web support teaching, I named it. You can see a learning object here. It's a flash animation to explain physics concepts. And as you can see, it's not the lab, the computer lab, it's a regular class, because we have a Wi-Fi connection covering the whole school. So each class can become a place where you can use a projector and a laptop to teach. We have 30 teachers. How many do use this? At the moment, 2 years after we began, 5. 4 are technicians, computer guys, computer teachers. Just 1 is not a computer teacher. It takes time. But here is the the one thing that I think worked most. We don't have books, we don't have textbooks there. People are actually studying by copying the notes of their teachers who are based on the notes of their teachers. So, let's build our books. Go on the Wikipedia with the table of content of a, let's say, electrotechnics book, and then have the local professor supervise the students to go and search the relevant pages and get the definition, and then build our own book, a distilled book, trying to connect the different pages. So this, back to the cultural thing, I think it's cool because it really is the right compromise between the constructionist thing, that you go on the Wikipedia, you build a common sense of knowledge, and then on the other side, you go back to the book, to the paper, which is crucial because these people are coming to our school at night because they have light for security reasons at school, because they don't have electricity. So paper, it's something still fundamental. We couldn't leapfrog paper and go to the PDF. Doesn't work. So it's an ongoing project. My dream is that this guy will be the one starting the Wikipedia in Kirundi, which is not there yet. 2 minutes more. Distance learning, what we did by that, we did it with the one-to-one lessons, one-to-class lessons, video conference. I just explained briefly what we mean by that. One-to-class lesson is the Italian teacher shares his screen through VNC, which is a free software, and the Burundian have their same software and file on their own computers, and they are interacting via Skype with the Burundian teacher who was previously trained at the same software. So the pupil will ask his teacher. If this teacher doesn't know the answer, then it goes to the Italian guy. It didn't work much because it was all of a mess with unreliable connection and blackouts and all that. Third try, collaboration. We set up a Moodle. You can see the site over there if you want to have a look at it. Trying to couple teacher to teacher of the same subject and build up activities to be done remotely by their classes. It failed. It was a great idea, but it didn't work. And why did it fail? Well, it's hard to say. Probably if I had to summarize why it was like wishful thinking driven, my wishful thinking driven. But then we had unreliable infrastructure. Problem motivation. Because we are asking to work for free. Work for free. There's quite a strong inertia in the school system and school culture to innovation and changing their job routines. And then there's a pedagogic shift from content to process. And this is really a mindset thing. And it's really hard to get to that. There's the language was a major barrier. We decided to use English because it was a foreign language on both sides. And it's poorly mastered on both sides, even at the teacher's level. And PC is complicated, and then there's a tricky teacher-student power game. Students are generally better than teachers in both English and computer. So why do I want to go and feel vulnerable that I will be asked questions I don't know about? Last slide, lessons learned. Well, do a context analysis and do not rely that much on wishful thinking. I mean, it sounds obvious, but I mean, I think it's so common to think, well, but to me, it will not happen. And use this. I fully subscribe to this that I learned yesterday. You know, check out that you have vision, skills, incentives, resources, and an action plan. Then support pioneers to become opinion leaders, and opinion leaders to become pioneers. And third, and most importantly, be patient. It will take longer anyway. Thank you very much. These are my contacts in case you want to get back to me, and I'm really glad to be here. And if you want to have my presentation, it's really available. Thank you very much.
Thank you.